Welcome back to the show. Time for our Healthy Living segment. Of course, Steve Brown's joining us, president of the Family Physiotherapy Centers. Also joining us is the chair of the Parkinson Society of Ottawa, Sprague, Plato. Great to have you guys on the show.
Pleasure to be here.
As always, we kind of start with you, Steve, and it's great to have you break down each of the things that affects us in our overall health. And today the focus is Parkinson's.
Yes, Parkinson's is a neurodegenerative disease that normal movement, which physiotherapists are really involved with, is controlled by a chemical called dopamine, which is produced in the midbrain. And the cells die off that produce that chemical dopamine, and you get the Parkinson's symptoms. And I won't take away Sprague's thunder and allow Sprague to definitely tell you what it's like to have Parkinson's disease.
You actually, you've had Parkinson's for around 8 years now.
Yes, I have.
But you know, I look at you and I said you were relatively young, so around 55 when you were first diagnosed, or when the diagnosis finally came down. What was that like to kind of start to slowly see that there were little tremors, there were things going on in the body?
Well, the most kind of shocking thing about it was the word progressive, because it's called a progressive disease, and we usually think of that as a good word, but it means it's going to get worse and worse and worse. So suddenly you kind of see the rest of your life defined in a much more specific way than you thought you would, and not defined in a good way. So that, as much as the symptoms, is the most difficult thing to get your head around when you're first diagnosed.
The society in itself is a wonderful tool for people and for their caregivers and their family to understand and to break down what it's going to be like for people. And that's really what you want to kind of cover here, is how many people can use this as a resource.
Well, that's exactly right. And the society brings together a community of people with Parkinson's. And they have counseling. They have information sessions we call Parkinson's 101, but they also have speech therapy, swallowing therapy, physio exercises, working with a family physio. So there's many areas there, including just companionship and friendship, that are provided by the Parkinson's Society.
You were mentioning too, just feeling that you were amongst other people who weren't gonna, you know, if someone trips and falls because they've lost their balance, like these are just little things that, you know, just these are things that come up now.
Yeah, well, like now my legs kind of bobbing up and down because I'm concentrating on this, and there's only so much dopamine to go around. And, you know, it's not a big deal, you're used to it. But still, it's nice to be in a group who see your hand shaking and know exactly why it is, because their leg's shaking, you know,
Yeah.
so they know what the deal is. It's the time when you feel kind of the most normal that you can.
Now, for you, this is, you know, you've been in a fortunate position where you're just in stage 1. There are 3 stages to Parkinson's. Yes. You know, and I made reference to Michael J. Fox, who was incredibly young when he was diagnosed. But you can spend a certain amount of time, for a long period of time, in a certain stage before things start to progress. That's
right. Well, it's very idiosyncratic to each person. Some people can spend 20 or 30 years going from stage 1 to stage 3. For some, it can happen in just a few years. I have been fortunate, and I'm still nearing the end of stage 1. I haven't had to start to take the most heavy-duty drugs, that sort of thing. And we should remember that Parkinson's, although the average onset is 60, people as young as 30, such as Mr. Fox, and younger can get the disease.
Physiotherapy, what have been some of the tools that have helped? Because this is something that a lot of your staff are able to come to the clinics and come to the society and be able to work on.
Well, one of the things we found out that like with a lot of things, exercise helps, particularly the right kind of exercise. Now, if you have barriers to get that exercise, that's where you need physiotherapy for that strength and range of motion and so on. And now Steve was just telling me more specifically about neurophysiotherapy. Maybe you want to say a word about that.
Yeah, one of the things that we do have on staff is physiotherapists who specialize in symptoms like Parkinsonian, and they can really curtail the exercises to help out people like Sprague. And they have, they'll take courses and training specifically for neuro conditions that can really help out. So they specialize in that area.
So, you know, we've run out of time, and this is a fascinating subject. In terms of more information, for those of you, there's about 8,000?
Yes, at least in the Ottawa area.
8,000 in the Ottawa area. There is the society to be able to contact and to be able to see some of the programs, one of which is the physiotherapy, but you can also contact the Family Physiotherapy Centers to be able to get more information on some of these therapies that you were mentioning. Once again, always a pleasure for our Healthy Living segment, and thank you so much for coming on board and talking to us about this today.